Welcome to Navigating the Mess with me, your host, Leah Nistico. I'm here to inspire you to find greatness in your life amidst all the chaos. Join me while I talk about my real life stories and finding out who I truly am beneath all the challenges life can throw you. Let's find connection in our chaos. Hi, welcome back. We're just going to dive right in and continue on from the last episode about how we distance ourselves from my family. Upon leaving my family, obviously that was a really tough time. I started becoming very withdrawn and depressed because I was just 30. I felt like an orphan. I have no one, and I was relying on you and your family. I had nobody from my family in town. That's really hard for my mindset anyways, to just be like, I have no one. I feel very alone. It was a hard time. We started spending a lot more time with your family, and I started to become really close with my mother-in-law. Because I was on maternity leave, she had said, anytime you want to come over, you feel lonely, she's like, I'm off, so you can come over, bring Anthony. We could spend some time together. Then she can have time with Anthony too.
And that worked out well because I was out of town a lot for work. So I felt really bad that you were by yourself in the evenings. So I thought that's perfect. You get to go over there during the day and, see somebody.
And talk to another adult.
Yes.
Because it was like Anthony was a baby, so I could have some adult conversation as well. Then when you hang out a lot, obviously you're going to start having conversation. You start becoming having a bond with the other person. Mm-hmm. She was telling me stories about, her childhood and all the things. Obviously I did the same. And I was telling her stories that I never would tell anyone. We were, having that bond, and I felt that she was a safe person. It was almost like the mother I never had. I really cherished those times, because with my mom, it was like she didn't want to be around me, or if she was, there was nitpicky about me as a person. It was nice to basically sit down, have coffee, and chit chat, girl talk with your mother-in-law. I thought, because I always heard lots of stories oh, mother-in-laws, you always butt heads. I just felt very lucky to have a mother-in-law who wasn't like that.
Yeah, I thought it's really good from an outside point of view that, especially after what happened with your parents.
Yeah.
And then thinking, this is wonderful that you get to actually have some sort of a relationship with a maternal figure.
Yeah.
That's not your real mother, but we can kind of, I don't know if fill the void is the right word.
Yeah. But I was married in the family. So I just assumed that she's my mother-in-law. So she's a mother figure, and I can kind of ask her questions about being a mother, because I'm a first-time mother. I didn't do this before. I don't have my mom to ask questions to, or get some sort of help. And so that's what I did. I found it very helpful. There was 2 years in between having Anthony and then having Luke. In those 2 years, it was really good with your family and being inclusive in your family and treating me like a daughter. I just felt blessed. That's another family that isn't mine is willing to open their arms to me and be loving. I've never had that. So I just felt really blessed in those 2 years. Upon having Luke, that's when I started to see everything kind of change, especially during my pregnancy with Luke. Your mom was very involved with Anthony, and maybe that was because he was a toddler and 2, but she never really asked me questions about the pregnancy with Luke. She did a lot with Anthony. I just started to see little changes in your mom.
It was great that she was, it was great that she was involved with Anthony, but you kind of want to be treated the same way all the time, no matter if it's the first kid or the 5th kid.
Yeah. So I thought maybe she didn't really care much about this pregnancy. Luke was about maybe a couple months old. In that time of you going out of town and me having a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old doing everything alone, I was obviously exhausted and drained and just overworked, I think, of just being a parent nonstop, and didn't have any breaks because I don't have my family either. One day in particular, Anthony told me that he wanted to go see Nana. I thought, oh, that's perfect. And it gives me one-on-one with Luke. When he naps, I can get in some sleep too. I had texted your mom. I said, hey, do you mind if Anthony comes over, just Anthony today? or are you busy? She said, no, yeah, for sure. I could do a lot with him. And she was excited. I was like, oh, this is great. I can have a little bit of a break. And I was getting him ready and he changed his mind. He's like, I don't want to leave. I said, oh, okay. For me as a parent, I want to parent in the way of they can make their own decisions to a point. Yes. Obviously, they're not going to make their own decisions about everything, but they're allowed to say no. Like if somebody says, hey, Anthony, I want a hug, and he's 2 and he just doesn't want, I'm not going to force that. Same with like dropping him off all afternoon. If he doesn't want to go, I'm not going to force that. I said, oh, okay. You changed your mind. That's okay. And I wanted to show him that it's okay for him to change his mind. I texted Nana and I said, hey, you know what? Anthony changed his mind and he's not going to come over today. She thought that was a bit strange. He did that a couple more times and I was like, okay. So maybe he was like testing boundaries of what he can get away with. But in the end, he did end up wanting to go, but she found that very annoying. She was getting a little upset with me. And she just basically, you're the parent, you're in charge. You need to tell him what's what. And I'm like, well, that's not how I parent. I want him to be allowed to say what he wants. Eventually, we drove over there, and the minute we parked, Nana was waiting for him outside. She opened the door and he said, I don't want to go. He was almost crying and she took it upon herself to unbuckle him and say, nope, you're coming with me. She grabbed him and I couldn't even say goodbye in that moment. I was like, okay, you're just going to take my child against his will, and I didn't want that to be okay, but she just rushed him inside thinking like, I'm in charge. Your mom drove you all the way here. You're not just going to change your mind and go all the way back home. I'm going to make the decision for you. You always have fun here anyways. So suck it up and you're going to have fun with me all afternoon. I didn't get to say goodbye. It just rubbed me the wrong way. And I found my voice, but not enough. I found my voice with my family, just not with your family, like quite yet. Just a little bit, but not quite yet. And so I drove home and I was like, something's not right. But you know what? He's going to have a fun afternoon. And she did send me like videos and pictures that they were having fun. So it eased my heart and my mind and I could relax. So it was a lot better. When I went to go pick him up, it was a good exchange. They said they had fun. So I picked him up and we were driving home and my phone's linked to, I think it was the truck at the time. Anytime I got a text message or a phone call, it would go through the Bluetooth on the truck. It said mother-in-law is calling because I had her in my phone as mother-in-law. And I thought, oh, that's weird. Like, why is she calling me now? Like I literally just left and I'm like, maybe I forgot something, but I'm driving. I'm not going to answer it. I'll just let it go to voicemail. Interesting that happened that way. When I got home, I parked and the boys were sleeping in the back. I unclicked it from the Bluetooth and I listened to my voicemail, just thinking like maybe I forgot something and I could call her and say, no problem, I'll just come back another day and pick it up, right? And I was listening to the voicemail. It was your mom. She had butt dialed me. And she was talking to a worker in her house that sometimes takes care of your sister and helps out with that, about me as a person, me as a mother, my childhood, and everything I told her in confidence. So I immediately started crying and I was like so betrayed in that moment. I thought I had somebody who had my back, who I could trust to tell these stories to, not give you ammo to tell everybody. So now how many more people did you tell my stories to? They're my story. If I wanted to tell people about my story, that's up to me. I don't know your worker. And so like, why are you giving your impression of me to a worker? Or to your neighbor? I have no idea, right? How many people know about all of what you think about me as a mom and as a person. It was very hurtful. You were working, I texted you, and it was not an immediate text back because you could be in the ductwork, right? And not get the call. I remember times of calling you and it would just drop the call because you were out of service or on a roof or whatever, right? I called my best friend. I said, hey, can I give you a call? Normally I don't call my friends. It's normally just texting. But if I need to call you and I say like, hey, can I call you? Now it's serious. There's something that happened. She immediately, oh my gosh, what's wrong? I called her. And as I was telling her, I was just bawling because I just felt so betrayed. And it was like, why is this happening all the time? Like, why do people think it's okay to just talk about me behind my back? I can't trust anyone. Like, I couldn't trust my family because my family did that. And then I marry into the family that does the exact same thing. I can't get away from it. I thought I did get away from it. She calmed me down and she says, you know what? At the end of the day, just call Phil and talk to him about it. Then when he comes home, talk to him about it again. I think the good thing out of this is that you have proof. There was a reason why I let it go to voicemail, because if I picked up that phone and was just listening to it all the way home, I had no proof. It was just my word against hers, right? So, and I couldn't show you. There's no proof of it though, Leah. You know what I mean? Like, you'd have to really trust the person that she's not, saying it in a different way, putting a different spin on it. You could hear her voice saying the things and how she meant it. So I did end up calling you that night. It was really hard for me to tell you because it's your mom. And you guys were close. You don't want to think of your mom as doing these things or saying these things about your wife. It was a really hard position that I was in, as well as you. You didn't listen to it until you got home, but which was like days later.
But I remember you calling me in the hotel when I was out of town and telling me what had happened. And I already feel going out of town, missing things. I feel very helpless that I can't be here to experience what you guys are doing here and helping and all that kind of stuff. So when I got that call, it compounded that even more, that I felt like I couldn't be here to help in any way.
Yeah. Comfort.
But I am a little bit ashamed to admit at the time I did have that point of view in my mind that my mom didn't mean it that way.
Yes.
At its core. It's that you misinterpreted it. She didn't mean it that way. I'm sure this is being blown way out of proportion. When I get home, we'll listen to it and we'll figure it out.
Those were the exact words he had told me when I said, hey, your mom did this, and butt dialed me and left me this voicemail. Immediately you said, she didn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
You're blowing this out of proportion. And you know what? I used to hear that so much growing up. You've misunderstood. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. All those cliche terms to gaslight somebody. I was angry and I was like, you know what? We're done talking. I have the proof and I'll show you when you get home. And when you did get home and you listened to it, my gosh, I saw your face drop. Like, you were like, right? Like, I don't want to swear on here, but like, wow. You didn't think your mom could do that?
No. And usually my thought process is, no matter what the situation is, how am I going to fix this? How is this going to be fixed? And I remember,
like, what do I need to do now with this information? Because your mom didn't know that this happened.
Nope, she had no idea. And I remember calling her, I think it was the next day.
Yeah.
And explaining, like, this is not okay. What did you mean by this?
But you did say, you said, hey, Mom,
I know you didn't mean it this way.
Exactly. You said, hey, Mom, left a voicemail. You butt dialed Leah, left a voicemail, and you said all these things. I listened to it. I know you didn't mean it that way. Right. Which is literally getting her off the hook right there and saying, it's okay to treat my wife like this because I know you didn't mean it. Well, she did it. She meant it. She did mean it. That's right. Because you're literally caught in it. How do you backpedal from that?
Another thing that came out of that conversation was me trying to get my mother to realize that she had to, or say some sort of apology to her, which is another terrible place to be in, because it's not up to me to be the fixer and put people together and realize that what you had said and what you had done was incorrect. It really had an effect on Leah. It's not my job to say, you should really apologize for that. You need to be able to realize that on your own if you hurt somebody and say, geez, what I said is very hurtful. Maybe I should speak with this person about that. That never happened. It was me encouraging her to do that.
Yeah. Instead, I find out from other people, instead of calling me and apologizing, or next time I'm over there, take me aside. Hey, you know what? I am really sorry. Apologize. It's not going to fix everything, because immediately you betrayed me. Our trust is gone. I am not talking to you. I am not saying anything of substance to you anymore. It's going to be very surface level, because all the trust is gone. But I later found out that instead of coming to me and validating my emotions and everything that I'm feeling and not belittling anything, she went to her other son and said, hey, I screwed up. I did this. I think I ruined everything. He just said the same thing you did. I think you need to apologize to Leah. And then she knows that it wasn't made to be malicious. It's hard when you hear all those things. How could it not be? You know, it's just really hard for the person that it happened to see that other person in a different light other than malicious, because it was hurtful.
I think it really hurts, you know, you as a person when you can't even come to terms with the fact that I hurt somebody and I need to make this right. You have to do that on your own. You know, like, yes, it hurt this person, but that repair after means a whole hell of a lot. I don't know. I can't speak for you, but I feel like it wouldn't have hurt in that moment to have her pull you aside and say, hey, you know what? I realized I hurt you.
It would be the starting of a building of trust.
That's right.
It wouldn't be like, oh, I trust you now, but it would be like, wow, okay, she took accountability. She's validating my emotions and how it would have made, like, she's putting herself in my shoes. If my mother-in-law would have done that, I would have 100% felt the same way. Yes. I am so sorry. I will not do that ever again. And hopefully in the future, you will trust me enough to want to talk to me again, you know? But then follow up with showing me that I can trust you again, not just sweep it under the rug because you're done. You apologize. That's it. And then keep doing the same mistake. Right.
But there was no apology.
It took 2 years for me to get an apology. And it was backsided, like, oh, that happened 2-3 years ago. I thought we were done with that. I'm sorry. You know, it was like,
that's how it was. That's how it was in our family. There was a lot of just put your head down, get over it, sweep it under the rug. Don't talk about it. Are we done talking about it yet?
Don't ever blame me for my mistakes.
That's right. That's right, because it was easier to not talk about it, and not address the elephant in the room than to just go on with it.
It's too uncomfortable for me to come to terms that I hurt you.
Yes.
Oh, wow. How do you think it was for me to listen to that?
That's right. And I mean, I'm not sitting here thinking that I'm all high and mighty. No. You know, I'm just as much part of it as they were. I've learned a lot since then, and sweeping things under the rug does not get rid of it. It just delays the inevitable. You're kicking the can down the road.
It makes it like you sweep it and then you sweep more and it makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. Right. Now you've got this massive mountain underneath this little carpet. Someone's going to burst, right? And then all of it comes out at one point, just all of it together instead of dealing with it a little bit at a time. It's not such a big blowout.
That's right.
Right? And you can talk about it calmly because you're not so filled with anger from all those years of build up, you know?
That's right.
Yeah. Over time, we started noticing that specifically your mom was starting to favor one child over the other one. That was really triggering for me because my brother was the golden child and I was the problem child. So I dealt with that growing up. He could do no wrong and I could do no right. I really didn't want to see that dynamic with our kids. That's why I left my family, so we would get out of that. And I started noticing in certain situations where, you know, Luke would be over here and Anthony was like the golden child. And it was just really, I found that really difficult. One story in particular was your mom's birthday.
That's right.
And she had them over. They wanted to sing happy birthday to her and have a cake with candles. Anthony, he's raring to go. He loves birthdays. And at the time, Luke was 2, and obviously terrible 2s. They changed their minds. Luke didn't know what he wanted at that time.
That's right.
So in the video, they said, Luke, come over. Do you want to come sing happy birthday to Nana and help blow out the candles? And he said, no. Then she started videoing. Luke wanted to come join after. But because he said no before she started videoing, he has to stick to that answer. You know, there's no changing of minds. Anthony started singing and Luke wanted to come in to help sing and blow out the candles. Anthony said no, and he was bullying Luke and he was pushing him back, and he went and, you know, was going at him to intimidate him. And Luke got really scared.
That's right.
He screamed and started crying, and they're still videoing it. Luke was out in like basically the middle of the living room, and Anthony just, you know, all happy, and I'm singing happy birthday and blew out the candles with Nana. But all the while when Anthony was bullying Luke, Nana was laughing at that. She sent that video to me and I saw the entire thing and I was like, oh, hell no. No. immediately showed you, and you got the same feeling because we're both younger children. We're the youngest of the family. I don't want to raise my kids to think it's okay to put hands on each other. It's okay to intimidate the other, bully the other. We're trying to grow up in a house that's full of love and inclusivity. And it's okay to change your mind because everybody changes their mind. Immediately, you got on the phone, you called your mom and said, hey, this video is not okay. And you showing Anthony by laughing at that it's okay to bully each other, put hands on each other. That is no go. Immediately, it was just like a fight. It was taken out of context.
That's right.
That's when we found out that Luke originally said no, but I was like, I don't care.
No, that doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. He's allowed to change his mind. He's allowed to be included in this family gathering, not just the golden child, Anthony. You know, like that was very triggering for me and you, I'm sure.
Yes, 100%.
So we ended up having to have a conversation, and they didn't like that. All the conversations never ended well. It was a lot of belittling from them and like, you're making a mountain out of a molehill and it's taken out of context. It was a lot of what I got growing up. It was like, you misunderstood the situation. No, I didn't. You took the video, you sent it to me, I watched it, and now I have a problem with it.
That's right.
And if I have a problem with it, I'm not just going to let it slide because you don't get to watch my kids and treat them like that and then think it's okay. Because Luke, it was not okay.
No.
He was very upset.
You could see it all over his face.
I don't want my child to think that he's the problem or, he did something wrong in that situation. It's the adults that did something wrong in that situation. They didn't stop it. They laughed about it. So when we would bring up an issue that we want to talk about, it was hard because we knew what we were going to get back, which was just like butting heads, and we're not allowed to tell the parent, like, we're all adults here for one, so we should all be on level playing field. But I feel like the grandparents still think they're the parents. Like up here, I heard a lot like, Leah, I raised 4 kids. Yeah, I'm raising 2. We're on the same level. We're both parents, but if you do something wrong, I'm going to bring it up. I found that in the conversations, they couldn't take accountability for their actions, and neither could my parents. If you just keep passing the buck, but this happened, or you start projecting it onto me, well, but you did this before or whatever, right? You're not taking accountability. You're just going to keep passing it on to the next person. And eventually I'm just going to feel like it's my fault. I'm the problem. That was what I got growing up. That's what I got as a teenager, as a 20-year-old, as a 30-year-old in my family. So I left that. Now it's happening again with my in-laws. I'm thinking, oh my God, it's me. I'm the problem. Everywhere I go, this problem is happening. It's got to be me. Then I went to therapy and I was like, this keeps happening. Why is this happening? It happened in my family and now it's happening in my in-laws, but it didn't happen with my in-laws before we got married. Why is this happening now? It's got to be me. I've got to be the problem. My therapist was like, no. Like, she would tell me if I was the problem based off of the stories I would be telling her that we went through. No, you're not reading too much into this, because I would be very hyper vigilant about certain things because I don't want it to happen again. I grew up in that. I don't want to relive my childhood in my 30s now. I don't want my kids to relive my childhood. That's the whole point in all of this. We just wanted to have like a happy family. We want to have a big family with extended family too. But if it's not going to work and nobody's willing to take accountability for what happened, like, how is that going to work?
It's not.
No. When we went to therapy, we started couples therapy. Your family, do you want to explain like how your family was growing up, kind of like to give a well-rounded idea of what kind of we were dealing with?
My family, as I said, it was very much sweeping things under the rug, but it was also because my sister was sick from a very young age. We were all about sticking together, being together, kind of bulldozing your way through whatever situation came about. If we were together, we were stronger together. No matter what the terms or what the situation is, we are always going to be stronger together. We're one big happy family because my sister is the center of everybody's efforts. It felt good when I was a kid that I was able to help in that way, any way I could. if it was coming to her appointments or making her laugh or anything like that. And I'm very proud that I was able to do that. But even through my own therapy, I've learned that that's not always the healthiest way to structure your family around the health and well-being of one person.
Despite, like, if people make mistakes, or you just
That's
gotta
right.
don't talk about
That's
it.
right.
We're
Don't talk
stronger
about it,
together.
push it away and just get past it. It was very difficult to now start seeing how they were treating Leah and, identifying her as the problem every single situation and trying to convince me that she is the problem. Every situation just got worse and worse and worse, and me thinking, well, how could she be every single time? So what we learned through not only our own personal therapy but our relational therapy as well is that when you choose your spouse and you have kids, you get married, that's your new immediate family. Everybody else becomes your new extended family. And I don't think I had really realized that before therapy. I just thought, I got married, I had kids, we're now one bigger family and we all stick together. And on some levels I can see that, but for the majority of it, this is now your new immediate family. This is my main focus, 110% all the time.
There were certain situations where your parents would text you if we were doing something and they'd be like, immediately, we need your help. You need to come over now. And you would help them with their problems. And I'm like, well, okay, we also had plans to do something, or we were going to have a talk here.
That's right.
Why are you leaving us? That just showed me that you thought your parents were above me. It showed them that too. But then when we learned that and we had something planned, we had a talk, and your dad said, hey, drop everything, I need you. You said, I can't. I've already planned to have a talk with Leah. This is very important. I cannot help you right now, but once I'm done, tomorrow I could come over and help you. And that was like, what?
It did not go over well.
No. And there was a problem after that, after they thought that you were Xing them out. No. This is our immediate family now. And my wife, we're equals, and she means a lot to me.
That's right.
You do too, but when I have the time,
that's right,
I can help you.
And that was extremely hard to do at that moment, because helping family, as I said, is like a deep-seated thing. I need to be able to do that because it makes me feel valued and worthwhile, that I'm progressing the family forward by helping in any little way. When I had to say no, I had to realize that was the correct way to go. It didn't make it any easier just because I knew it was right. It was very difficult to do that.
Yeah, putting in a boundary when we didn't have any boundaries with your parents.
That's right.
I know there would be times where if we were in a problem, you'd go over there and just unload with them. Right. And that's not a great thing to do, because now they don't hear my side, just your side. That's and right. Maybe it's biased.
That's right.
Especially if you go over there and you're mad at me.
That's right.
You're going to say things that you don't mean. Your parents are hearing this. Now they're, oh, well, your wife is horrible. Right?
The whole entire perception of you is totally changed, because they're hearing it from me, a trusted person, when I shouldn't have been doing of that in the first place.
Then your mom will now go to the other siblings and tell them. And that's what we found out, and then everyone's perception of me is swayed.
That's right.
Now I'm the problem and I need to be X'd out of the family or found a way to get a divorce, right? Yeah. We started having a lot of problems once we started putting in boundaries, because it's like, well, you used to come over and tell me all your problems. How come you don't do that anymore? Well, that was wrong of me to do that. That's right. And I'm changing. People don't like change, especially when it doesn't benefit them.
That's right.
So when we started running into more issues, we would bring it up in therapy and say, I don't know how to deal with this, because, what do we do? It just keeps happening over and over. When our kids are going over to your parents' house, we say like, hey, these are the rules, because we're the parents. They're just little, like Luke's not napping anymore because he's not going to sleep through the night. So we would appreciate if nobody does any naps anymore. Like, just kind of, that was our rules as a parent and as the babysitter or the grandparent, or if they're going to daycare, those people need to follow those rules, because that's not your child. We would find out that they didn't follow those rules. They wouldn't tell us, but Anthony did at supper time, would say like, oh, Luke had a nap today. What? Now he's not going to sleep at night and I got to be up all night. Okay, now I have to approach your mom. Is this true? I would appreciate if you would kind of listen to they're there. They're in place for a reason. Now he's not going to sleep all night. Like, not all night, but it'll be way late.
That's right.
And cranky, or the whole routine would be off. They took it as like, why are you giving me rules for your kids? We're the grandparents.
We're doing you a favor.
We're doing you a favor. You're ungrateful. This is our house. So whatever happens in this house happens to your kids. Whoa. So our therapist basically said, you guys need to have conversations. When you first start having hard conversations, that's exactly what it is. So hard.
That's right.
Because you're in fight or flight. You're scared. You're shaking. You think that a lion is going to attack you.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, you are not allowed to talk back. You are not allowed to say that your parents did something wrong.
Or voice your opinion.
Voice your opinion, yeah. Now, as adults who are telling another set of adults what you don't like and how come this is happening and we'd like it to stop, or can you meet us halfway, something, it was bad. There was yelling, there was belittling. Everything we got growing up was just like recreating our childhood.
That's right.
Whenever there would be a conversation, it's not a conversation when they're yelling at you and blaming you and belittling you for just wanting to bring up something
that's been bothering you.
Yeah, so that we can fix it.
Yeah.
A conversation is trying to fix a problem so that we can keep you in our life, not to cause a problem. And we just got a lot of, you're creating stress that's not needed. Eventually, we kept having to have these conversations, and we had one more which only lasted 5 minutes before the yelling. And our therapist said, once the yelling starts, you need to end it and say, we will come back and talk to you when we all can come together and be calm and talk like adults. That just never happened, and nothing gets resolved. And we had to make the decision to distance ourselves from now your family too, which was so much more harder. We gave them so many more chances because you had a different upbringing than me.
That's right.
It was hard because it was even hard for me because at first your parents were very welcoming. And then all of a sudden there was a switch. It was very hard for me to believe. It was also like, were you lying to me before?
Mm-hmm.
Were you being truthful? Were you wearing a mask before and you just took it off now? It was very confusing to me as to why I was welcomed before and then wanting to be exiled after. It was hard for me to watch you come to terms with nothing's changing. And if nothing changes, nothing is going to change. And we're going to keep running into the same problems.
That's right. I got very tired of having to defend myself, our decision on how we want to raise our kids, defending you. Yeah, it got to the point where it was almost every time we would go over there was something that was going on that we had to, now we have to have a conversation with them again. What do we have to say to them? And
it's not
how's that going to go?
We like to do it.
No.
We would like to live in a peaceful world where we didn't have to have these hard conversations. Nobody likes to have them. But in order to keep the people that we love, obviously some things are going to happen. And we didn't want to sweep it under the rug.
That's
and
right.
Now we're the problem. We have been feeling like upon leaving your family now, we're completely alone.
That's right.
We had to navigate that. We have no help from either family. It's just us. Oh my gosh, how are we ever going to have a break? And at that point, I only wanted to have family take care of our kids if we wanted to have a date night.
That's right.
We had to branch off. Now, I have to hire a babysitter and we have to trust a stranger with our children in our house. That was scary for me. So immediately I went to the people that I did know. They had children that were teenagers. We trusted them and it ended up being good. We interviewed some people. Then I had to branch off and I went on to Facebook and I found somebody local and she had posted that, she's trustworthy. She's this age, book a meeting and I'll come meet you. And so we did. It was like the best decision we've ever made.
Yes.
She is so loved in this family. The boys love when she comes over and we can have a date night or, and get a break. I don't know. That was the best decision we made. For me, I felt like, we can do this.
There was a little bit of a pressure taken off, a little bit of a load taken off that we're able to continue on with some sort of normalcy.
Yeah, we're not tied to go back to family and just deal with it because we need them. Yeah. It was no, We needed to now be independent adults who can figure this out without family, without the toxicity of the family. We will figure it out.
That's right.
There were times where, babysitters couldn't arrange. So we went months without having a date night, which is hard.
Yeah.
And then our connection starts to, dissipate, and you really got to rekindle your marriage. So date nights actually really helped, especially when you have no help. You're just 24 hours a day, like with your kids. That's a lot. And like going to work is like okay, I can regulate,
Yeah, that's right.
We had to lean on our friends that we had. And for me, that was hard because I didn't want my friends to feel like I'm using them, or now they have to help us because we have no one. I've always like overly thanked them because I felt so bad that we would have to use them. But we came to learn that the friends that we had in our life wanted to help us.
That's right.
Wanted to do these things. They don't want to be paid or, always have to buy food because they're watching our kids, or they will just do it. And that, to me, I can't wrap my head around that because my own family didn't want to do that. And your own family didn't want to do that because now we're ungrateful. So I don't want my friends thinking I'm ungrateful. So we like overly thanked and brought food and, oh my gosh, thank you so much. We will only take an hour or whatever, be really quick. But now realizing all that, like our friends are our family. They help us and we do the same for them. Realizing chosen family is almost better, well, in our case it is ways. Yeah, we couldn't rely on our actual family that we were born into, which is a hard realization to come to, because you think that you can trust your family 100% and they'll always have your back, they'll always want to help you. But in our case, that wasn't the case.
That's right. It was extremely difficult. I don't think everybody realizes that when you hear a lot about it in social media. Walking away from your family is like the in thing to do. It was nothing like that for us. It was so hard for us to come to that decision about how far we had come with them and all the effort that we tried to put into to make it work, and it just was not working.
No, we tried to keep it alive, we were just butting heads. Like they weren't really understanding why we'd want to have a conversation. I would also hear from a lot of people like, but she's your mother. Okay, I understand that you feel that way, but also I'm her daughter, and how could she treat me that way? Right?
That's right.
So you got to look at both sides. If the other party aren't willing to change or even meet you halfway, I'm sorry. My boundary is I'm out, because I'm not going to lose myself to please you and to just keep the peace. We found that so stressful and hard, and we lost sleep over it to make these hard decisions. But in the end, we ended up finding peace. In the moment, we were grieving the loss of our family, because they're still alive, but they don't want to necessarily be in our family if they have to communicate, right? So there was stipulations involved with your family. They wrote us a letter and said, we don't want anything to do with you unless you never bring up faults for them. They will never take care of our children again unless we give them at least 24 to 48 hours of notice, and we will only take care of them for 1 hour. But to me, it's like, do you want to be a babysitter? Or do you want to be a grandparent? To me, that's different. Being a babysitter is like, I need to pay you for your services and I need to give you 24 to 48 hours of notice. Being a grandparent is wanting to be around your grandchildren. It doesn't matter length of time, because you actually want to be around them. You love them. And you're willing to stay like within the boundaries of what the parents are giving. You don't think that any time with your grandchildren is time wasted, or the parents of these children are ungrateful because they're taking advantage of you. No.
We're trying to provide an opportunity for you to have a relationship with your grandchildren. We're not trying to take advantage of your whole entire day or your retirement or anything like that. We've expressed how grateful we were every single time we would go over there.
Thank you. Said multiple
times. And we were very, and I feel like on some level still to this day, we're grateful for the time that we were given to have alone time, and the time that the kids had with their grandparents. I'm sure they cherished it when they were there. I just can't get on board with the fact that we're ungrateful, or now there's terms and conditions applied to every time when the kids want to come over. I get that you're maybe retired, or that some people are retired and they want to have time to themselves. That's wonderful. That's great. Let's figure out a way where everybody can work together.
But if you're not willing to have that conversation to figure it out, then it's not going to work. I'm sorry. And so that was the hardest decision we had to make. We came across a lot of family members just cutting us totally off. There was obviously a lot of talk about me because there was lots of emails being said to you. It was a very hurtful experience. I don't recommend cutting family off unless you absolutely have to. I am not recommending that because it's extremely hurtful for everyone involved.
It's not just something that happens in the moment either, where you feel hurt at the moment and then you're good.
You make a decision
6 months later or something like that, you're fine. We constantly think about what could have been if we were able to sit down and have that conversation and come to some sort of mutual understanding of each other, which is all we were asking for, is a little bit of understanding of the other person and how you're making them feel and etc. We were frustrated on what could have been.
And grieving that because we've always wanted to have this big family, and now it's just us. And especially on holidays, feels very alone, feels very lonely when it's just us and you hear everybody else like, oh, I'm going over to my parents' house, I'm going over to my in-laws' house, and everybody's having a great time. I get depressed a lot during the holidays and having to try and figure out some fun activities to do with the kids so that they still have a good childhood during holidays.
That's right.
And I don't want them to be upset that they never had any extended family. But I mean, that's a decision we had to make. I don't regret it. And I feel like I would make the exact same decision.
Right. Yeah, it was a difficult decision for sure. There's always cons to every decision, but I feel like the pros in this case
outweigh.
Our peace is worth it. The relationship that we want to have with our kids is worth it.
Yeah. And we're just basically setting the pathway of what a healthy family dynamic should look like for our kids, and hopefully they keep it up.
That's right.
Thank you for joining me on Navigating the Mess. Hopefully some of this resonated with you. If so, please hit the like and subscribe button or leave a comment. I would love to share the comments every episode. See you next week, same time, same place.